Hey there, guys. I'm Steffi Stuff, and this is an extra special episode of Between Two Teeth.
You forgot to introduce me. Who
No,
am I?
I am not. You should introduce yourself. You're actually better at that.
Oh, thank you very much. Well, I am Bobby. I digress. No.
We've also got Dr. Craig Armstrong on today, and we are
Super
ecstatic.
special.
Thank
We're
you
excited.
so much for joining us. We're so
My
happy
pleasure.
to have you.
We don't get many people to join us.
I think it's because of you.
I think you're right.
I can't believe that. No, I'm looking forward to it, guys.
All right, Steph.
All right.
What are we talking about
So
today?
here's the cool thing. I love doing interviews like this. Obviously everybody knows you, knows who you are. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna mix it up today. We are going on that.
One
Oh,
thing.
thanks. I wanted to hike Machu Picchu. And so, right before the pandemic, we set it up and we did it. And, I don't know if you all have done that, but I mean, it's 4 days hiking and sleeping in tents in primitive situations in the mountains.
That's amazing.
And it was probably one of the hardest things for her to do. She got altitude sickness, had to have oxygen by the guides and stuff like that. But we're hiking 10-hour days up, 4,000 meter, peaks,
Dude,
up and
that's
down in the same day,
awesome.
10-hour hikes. And she did it without blinking an eye. And when we got to the end, you come up through the sun gate in the morning and you watch the sunrise, and you Machu Picchu is before you right there. And it's almost a religious experience.
Yeah.
But when she found out we could have taken the train right to the end of Machu Picchu and hiked up that morning, it wasn't a good night. I mean, it wasn't really good.
Exactly.
I can see you're going, are you kidding me right now?
exactly. That is awesome.
No shower for 4 days.
You know-
It's tough. Yeah.
You know what, though? You go.
Oh,
for
really?
it.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to suffer. Sometimes you
There's-
have to struggle
yeah.
with things to really appreciate the sunrise.
And when you say a religious experience, I wonder how much of that is tied to how much suffering went in to get to the top.
Well, that is it, because when you do that hike, I don't care how you do it. We actually, our guide told us a story about a guy who the year before had signed up for the trip, and he got into a car accident and lost his leg. And he did that trip with one leg, and his family didn't want him to do it, but he did it. And he had to have the guide carry him a lot of the way. And so I don't know if the guide told us that story to motivate us, but there's no way that about 8 hours into your hike that you're going to say you can't do it when you've got a guy who had that happen to him and he still completed it. And he told us the story when he hiked. He came into the camp, because when you come into the base camp after hiking all day, you usually come in a group, and he came in and it was dark and everybody gave him a standing ovation when he came into the camp. So,
Wow.
I mean, that to me, that's the kind of stuff that gets you, that's when you go through that sun gate and you see the sunrise and you see Machu Picchu in the clouds, and you're like, man, this is amazing. And the Incas, how they would have seen that, how it's just amazing. So
I love that story. I want to go do Machu Picchu now. Just hearing
Yeah,
that,
you
I'm
should.
always after the, I don't know, that spiritual experience, and just kind of the way you describe the sunrise. Oh my gosh. I bet so many
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
have that experience.
I had
how
that
you
with
said
my
it.
boys at Smoky Mountains. We actually
Really?
slept in the truck overnight, woke up, and just seeing the sunrise and the clouds was amazing.
That is
Well, that's what we tell the
cool.
grandkids all the time, when we're doing stuff. And I'm kind of corny sometimes with them, but I said, you know what, we're making memories.
Yeah.
And long after we're gone, you're going to remember the corny stuff that Papa does. And, I make no apologies for it, because, my Papa was like bigger than life for me. We grew up in Scotland for a while, and, he would come take us to the beach, and we would make a fire and roast pork sausages just on a whim, and that's the kind of stuff that, he's been gone for, 40 years, but that still is in my memory bank. And so that's what I tell our kids and our grandkids. We're making memories, because when it's all, at the end of the day, when it's all over, that's all we really have is our memories, right?
And
that's
Craig,
kinda,
when I hear you
love
talk
that.
about that, part of what we do is to try to push people to do certain things. And
Yep.
part of that is, we took 3 weeks off for this Italy motorcycle adventure. And people are like,
Yeah.
how on earth could you ever do that? Or we take a bunch of dentists for a week fishing in Alaska at
Yeah.
some inlet that is
Right.
just crazy and
Out of
bizarre.
Juneau.
Or I do a 1 month public policy fellowship. You can take time off. You're going to have experiences. You can make it happen. So
Yeah.
just make it happen.
Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
That's probably a lesson that I think that we should have, and maybe they're already figuring it out. But the new generation of dentists, I know they've got a lot on their plate, student debt issues, and trying to find employment and so forth. But one of the philosophies that Lana and I've had is that we're going to do our traveling while we're working.
Yes.
And so we're not going to wait till we're
Yes.
retired to go
Yeah.
do these Machu Picchu trips or hiking in Greece or Spain or whatever. We're going to do it while we're still able to do it to a level that's pretty. I'm a competitive guy, so I like to do it and do it in good time and so forth. So that's been something, and that would be a piece of advice I'd give our young practitioners. Get out there and certainly take care of your family and your patients and so forth, but make sure that you're having fun along the way. Because as someone who's closer to the end of my career in dentistry than the beginning,
Yeah.
I have no regrets. I mean, I feel like this has been a great profession. It's afforded me tremendous opportunity. But I've taken that. I remember not feeling like I could take off a couple of weeks and go to Italy or whatever. And it's like, you know what? I'm doing that
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm a better practitioner. I can get it back. I've got a different perspective.
Yep.
I've interacted with different cultures that make me a better person or a better listener.
Yeah.
And so,
Yes.
that's to me, that's what it's all about, is trying to become a better human being and
Yes.
fitting into society and helping my fellow man or woman.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, I mean, when I hang up my hat, I'm leaving nothing on the table, man. I'm
I love
out.
that.
Going
So,
for
it's
it.
good.
You
Now,
gotta go for it.
What
Yeah.
strikes me about all of what you just said is a value-driven life. You have your compass. You've got your lighthouse. You know where you're going. You may not have the details worked out, but you're going to make the most of it, and you're going to get there following
Absolutely.
these sets of values. I love that. I think that's the goal.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
That is
I
the
agree.
goal. And I would say, when we talk about the younger generation of professionals and dentists specifically, I think they're smarter in many ways than we were. And part of that is
Oh my gosh.
they want a more balanced life. They want a more
They demand it.
balanced
We
career.
didn't demand it. We had to take it.
Demand's a
Right?
better word for it.
Yeah.
Oh, you've talked to Stephanie then.
Yeah,
Yes.
I don't want to throw around the word deserve, but there's some deserving.
Yes, but so finding
No.
and maybe as we continue to shape our why and our message is to keep kind
Absolutely.
of pushing that, and
Yeah.
at least we're not saying you got to take a 3 week motorcycle journey in Italy, but do something that's right for you, and don't be afraid.
Absolutely.
Don't be
I
afraid.
think getting outside of Dallas, Texas, for me was some of the best adventures I've had, whether it's Guatemala or Italy or, we're about to go to Warsaw, Poland. I was talking to one of the younger people at this Texas Mission of Mercy, and like you were just saying, Craig, I ended up learning a lot from them. And this young person, she is 17, and she's going to be going to Switzerland and Austria. Man, when you start to
Wow.
get those international experiences at such a young
Yep.
age, you're different in your whole life. You realize that Americans, we've got some things to learn from the rest of the world too.
It's funny you mentioned that. I've always been adventurous, and I've kind of think back on why that is. And so my mom came to this country when she was 21, didn't know anybody, and
Wow.
just basically emigrated from Scotland. And she
Mm.
always had that kind of instilled that kind of can-do attitude within us. But I remember living in Frankfurt, Germany, 16 years old, in between my junior and senior year. I was 16, and I told my parents that I wanted to go to hitchhike around Europe with my 14-year-old brother. And to my surprise, they let me. And I remember leaving. I'm thinking, why are they letting me do this?
14 years
And
old?
Yeah.
my brother was 14. I'm 16. So we're
He's
headed
a mature
to
16.
England.
Wow.
We're headed to England.
Yeah.
to meet some girls. I'll be honest, there was motivation there. We're going to
Ain't
meet
nothing
some
wrong with
girls in England,
that.
but we got to London and we had no place to stay. So we've got our backpacks on. We're in the train station in London. We've got chicken soup out of the vending machines, and we're figuring out where we're going. We're going down to Brighton. We're going down to Brighton in the south of
Yep.
England, and it's high season. We've got no place to stay. And we get outside of London and we get picked up by a doctor who gives us a ride all the way from outside of London down to Brighton. And we get to Brighton. Now, keep in mind, I'm 16 and my brother's 14. So he's going along for the ride.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to be the person that has the plan, right?
Yeah.
So we get down to Brighton and we're trying to find some place to stay. And of course, it's high season, everything's sold out. And so, talking about opportunities presenting themselves and so forth, I said, well, who in a city knows everything about a city? So I flagged down a cab driver, and I got it.
Smart.
We flagged down the cab driver. I got the cab driver, and I said, "All right, take me to a bed and breakfast or a hotel. We really don't really care where it is, but just need someplace to sleep for the night." And he said, "Oh, sir, we don't. This is high season. There's no place." And he happened to be an immigrant from India. And he was like, he's really apologetic. And he says, no, there's no place. And I said, well, there's got to be. We have no place to stay. And so this was back before cell phones. And so he pulled over and he made a phone call and he said, I've got a place for you. And he took me. And what he did is he took me to his brother's house. So we get in there and his brother and his brother's wife and their two kids are looking at these two Americans kids.
Yeah.
And they were sleeping in their bed. And so we're having
Oh my
breakfast in the
God.
morning with this family that we didn't even know.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I
can you
mean, it was just
imagine?
one of those experiences. We eventually found a bed and breakfast to stay at, but I don't remember feeling nervous that there was anything wrong with that,
It,
that
it,
plan, if you
it
will, or
makes the
lack of
world a
plan.
smaller place.
Yeah. And so
Yeah.
it was an adventure that really, I think it shaped me knowing that I can depend on myself no matter what the situation is.
Yeah.
And I'm going to make the best of the situation because I think I had pretty good instincts at 16. I'm not sure that I would want our kids doing that at 16, but I felt like
Yeah.
I had the tools necessary to survive at that. Either that or my parents were just trying to get rid of us. So I don't know either one.
I love that it really plays to your adaptability. It was from an early age. You
It was
knew
fun.
you didn't know what you're going to be going into. Yeah, 16 or 14. Oh my goodness, all by yourself
Yeah.
in this country. You have no idea,
That's pretty
No
and
awesome.
you're
idea. Yeah.
asking cab drivers, "Where are we going to
Yes.
stay?"